I'm quite happy as well that more and more people take a look at that, talk about that, and even believe that guys like uh, uh, Michael Saylor, who's like considered a cult person, is like he never really says it, but his predictions, his price prediction, actually sort of like almost match the power law. And I find it a bit strange, for example, when he says in 20 years, Bitcoin going to be at 10 million. 12, I think he says 12 million, 30 million. Power law comes roughly the same number, 10 to 11 million. But then he says, well, the reason is the global wealth going to be at 4 trillion then. And if you assume wealth grows to 4 trillion and Bitcoin going to be 7% of the global, like why 7? Why not 2? Why not 15? It's like, that's strange. So I think there's a bit reverse engineering what he does to actually derive the same now, because he knows that he's a highly trained, highly intelligent guy, and he's fully aware of it.
Yeah, he understands math coming from the MIT. He definitely does.
Very, very well. Very, very well. So,
and it's interesting for me because I think it's less understood just because it's a little bit of a harder topic for people. Like most people don't necessarily learn about the power law in school, or like something that they kind of have to grasp. And then you also have to grasp like how, and you told this to me, I think when we went to the restaurant, when you first saw Giovanni talk about, oh, Bitcoin is a power law, it was very easily for you to understand because you understood the power law and you understood, okay, like things grow naturally and then the network effects come to play. So it was an almost an easy idea for you to get. But I think most people probably haven't heard about the power law. I heard with Giovanni the first time about the power law. That's why our first episode, I think the first 1 hour, he just explained it to me and I'm like, what the heck is that? And so maybe that's, I think the reason why people don't understand the power law is the reason why they don't understand the power law with Bitcoin, I guess.
yeah, that could be as well, and I think as well it has to do that people believe like, how would you even come up with an idea that physics or math applies here? Why would that even like so? Because it's a market, it's like people trade with each other, and it's really unusual, and that models work. And by the way, I am the perfect example. I'm usually a guy who would say, of a guy who says, do not trust any model. I made during my Wall Street career in a subprime space, I was a derivatives trader. I used models to derive a price. But I understood as well to always try to understand the models of the guy on the other side and to say, what's the weakness? And on a bigger level, I got it as well that all the models we had, just big picture, they're bullshit. That's not gonna. So like even the model tells me I have to buy X, Y, Z amounts of subprime to hedge my short position. Like, nah, not gonna follow the model. I don't believe that for a second, because even it tells me I should be doing that, it's wrong in my view. So I don't. I tend not to. I tend to be very careful around models. And by the way, the same beyond that, not financial markets. Even when people talk about models and climate change, I'm like, really, like that's not how science actually works. But here is something totally different at work. Here is as we said, a system of totally decentralized, a lot of different nodes interacting with each other. Constantly energy is being added. Like you need energy. New people are being added. And based on that, these are the qualitative characteristics where you say you expect the power law. That's the way, for example, we human beings, we have all these billions and billions of cells, and we have the neurons working, and they're being formed. When you really zoom down, that looks very simple, everything, and there's nothing special. But the fact how it adds together, and we add constantly energy, we need 2,000 calories every day, which I talk about that one for a second. It's not a power law. We grow, and it emerges something like you, me, and the human beings. And the power law was made actually very famous by, not famous, but it's actually a Swiss guy, Max Kleiber. And he did it exactly. He said, look at animals, look at actually, yeah, animals of different size, including people as well, and their consumption of energy they use every day. And what you see is like you have a little ant, you have a mouse, you have a cat, you have a dog, you have a human, you have a horse, you have a bear, and then you have a blue whale. So everything on a like scale where you have like the weight is the X and the Y is the energy consumption, the daily. Looks like everything is like packed into the corner, and then the blue whale is somehow up there. That's what you expect, what you see. But what he did was interesting. He said, just take a different lens. Just use now steps by the power of 10. So instead of saying 10, 100, 1000, you say 10 is 10 times 10. So it's like 100 is 10 times 10. So it's 2. 1000 is 10 to the power of 3. So it's 3. So take that. That's the log scale. And he did that on both axes. And it was like a straight line. A straight line. And now you would say a blue whale looks totally different from an ant and from us, obviously. How is that possible? Now, then there was this wonderful work done by this guy, Geoffrey West, from Santa Fe Institute, which actually is the institute which studies nonlinear systems going back the last 30, 40 years. Very fascinating research that do. And he said it's actually that's where power law comes to place, because you have all the cells working together and it emerges what emerges. And it's the underlying actually is very simple, the underlying rules, but then you can build some very complex, fascinating systems. And I think, and a last example where you see it maybe best, ants. Ants are these really weird little creatures. Each little ant is not really intelligent. There's nothing happening. You can have 20 ants on your table that run around in an erratic way. If you have millions of them, somehow they're communicating and they're building wonderful so like buildings and structures and bridges emerges out of this like very simple piece called ants. And I think that's where you see now Bitcoin network, which has like this independent, decentralized network, which follows actually a rule book called the algorithm. It's like that's what is supposed to happen, and constantly energy is being added as we speak. And I think that's therefore is only for me it's not a surprise. And now you say why is that a big thing? Well, if I can sit here and say very likely based on that Bitcoin will be at 1 million in 8 to 9 years. I think that's I don't have to know. I can stop right there. I don't have to know more. If I'm interested in money, if I'm interested in saving and preserving my wealth, that's exactly what I want. How we get there, that's an interesting thing. People will do different things. There will be another Michael Saylor. There will be something in the DeFi market, and people talk about how is AI and Bitcoin working. It happens in different things. And I think to the last point, it's important as well. What I did when you go on to, for example, on my X account, I made them advertising Piers the Banker. So I don't have a book, I don't do, but that's the only thing I do. Like publicly, you can see, I have pinned the power law literally from Giovanni. It's like from 2019. So I haven't changed anything. And what this post shows is like, it uses the original post done by him. I said made public by this German American guy. What's his name? Forgotten, Harold Berger. So and say, okay, if I use exactly the data, the parameter, the only two, and really assume what's the price from today, then you will come to 120, 130,000. Now it used to be there a while ago. When it was done, the Bitcoin price was at exactly. It was September 2019 was at 8,000. So we went to a factor of 10. And what happened between that? That's very important as well. Back then, we would have said Bitcoin should be around the price we are here, maybe slightly higher. But what happened then? It happened, Bitcoin went to 67,000 in 2021, dropped down to 15, 16,000 in order to go back, bounce back to 125,000. So nobody could know in 2019 that we're going to have an ETF, that we're going to have Donald Trump, that we're going to have a Michael Saylor. He started in 2020 in August. Or that in the meantime, you have Sam Bankman-Fried ending up in prison. You have the FTX scandal, all the lending platforms, DeFi platforms, which like got really busted, and the SEC. A lot of things happened. But guess what? It didn't matter. The power law does whatever it does. So therefore, what will be the reason why I think Bitcoin will go to 1 million? I cannot tell you, or like, because people like, oh, could it be that and that? Like, I don't know. That's a beautiful thing. I didn't have to know that in 2019. I would have never predicted Trump gonna win 2024, or that we're gonna have a Michael Saylor, or that BlackRock gonna launch the ETF, and the SEC said it's absolutely fine. So I think that's a beautiful thing. I don't have to know any of that.
So, so is the main reason that Bitcoin follows a power law because it acquires real world energy and has the proof of work concept? Is that like the main reason for why the power law actually applies and the power law doesn't apply to like altcoins and things like that?
Yeah, I think energy is important, that you constantly have energy in. That's very important. That it's a highly decentralized system. That's actually that's the key thing. It's decentralized in terms of like the mining, the participants, who is buying and selling. So that's very important as well. And very important for power law to work is that there constantly new people join. That's important as well. If you just have a network which has the same amount of participants with literally no energy in and out, there's not going to be a power law. So that has been well studied in a network science, so science in its own. But I think if you have a growing system, like new participants, fresh energy, decentralized, and now another key point, you have certain hubs. What do I mean by that? Not equal. Every node is equal in terms of like, for example, I'm on the internet. I'm not a hub. I have like, or in an X, I have like 9,000 followers. Michael Saylor is a hub. He has like millions. Elon Musk is a hub. He has 200 million. You are so like a mini hub because you have much more. You see what I mean? There are different orders. And in Bitcoin, you have the same. You have like the exchanges, massive hubs. You have Michael Saylor, a big hub. And then you have like guys like me, like little hubs here. And then little miners and miners at home. So that's critical as well. They're not all equal. They have their own hubs as well. And there's been tremendous research done already 20 years ago. And it's not because of Bitcoin, because it came about with the emergence of the internet. People started that's the ultimate like network where suddenly people are being connected, and that's been studied mathematically. It has been studied 50, 60 years ago, but not in the same rigorous manner, because they assumed usually as a fixed amount of participant, it's not growing. But then, of course, you have like suddenly the massive network effect. We have the McCullough law, which is well known for decades now, that like a growing network, the value grows with the number of participants squared, which is easy to prove mathematically. Roughly, it's not exactly squared. So I think that's the point, that the network has been studied because of the internet, and now you have the wonderful, beautiful network called Bitcoin. Now, why doesn't it work for altcoin? I haven't really studied that in details. I've spoken to, I think, Giovanni. He studied that in much more details. It doesn't work for companies, and I think it doesn't really start for Bitcoin, for altcoins, because they have issuers, they have management. They're ultimately Ethereum, there's a management team behind, who founded it. These guys, it's a company actually incorporated in Zug, next to Zurich, Switzerland. So these are company structures. So there's some centralization. Bitcoin, I think why it works as well is because there's a guy, Satoshi Nakamoto, who nobody knows who he was, what he was, where he was, and just disappeared. And it's no issue. And I think an interesting point as well, because the SEC got it intuitively right to say Bitcoin is a commodity, it's not a security, and all the other securities. And I would say it like that: the minute you are a security, you're very likely not going to follow power law.
I talked about because we mentioned it before we started recording the Bulgaria the presentation I gave, and I talked in the presentation about foundational inventions. I talked about the wheel, fire, but also the internet, so the TCP/IP protocol and those kind of layers, and what the difference is to Facebook, Google, and the TCP/IP protocol. Like there's a massive difference between product and protocol layer. Are protocols like the wheel as a concept or the TCP/IP protocol, are those all following the power law because they have similar attributes and they are decentralized as an idea?
I haven't looked into that, so I don't really want to speculate whether that's on the wheel. I wouldn't really. Uh, Well, you would have to say, okay, how many people adopted the wheel? How did that happen? So I would assume it very likely follows a power law, things like that. When you have something where there's like I've seen I've seen an X your presentation, parts of that. I think that one a great slide. I think it's very deep system type of thinking what you presented. But for example, the internet, yes, I think that has clear the adoption rates, how people adopt to the internet over time. I think that has been well studied. That's where actually the power law idea came from. That when you look at the number of participants on the internet and a network. Over time, how does it behave? That really follows power laws, and so many levels you can measure that. Yes, with a wheel, that's not. I wouldn't like to comment on that one.
I have to throw that question to Giovanni, I guess.
Yeah, he might then spend the whole night and study that. So he's like he's much more qualified to answer that than I am.
One more question to Paolo I have because people ask a lot, especially new people, like, like why shouldn't Bitcoin fail? Like why can this whole thing not just like stop working? And when I listen to the power law and it has all those attributes of like it's decentralized, there's energy in and out, that it grows, like new people joining, and then also the different hubs as you explained it. Is there a point in a power law where it also could break down, or is there a point in a power law where it is naturally just growing further because the power law is kind of saying that?
I would, I would, I would not now make the prediction to say it's gonna go on for hundreds of years. I think that would be quite a stretch. But I would say it's might be well working very well for next. It works very well for next 20, 25 years. I wouldn't like to go beyond that because, yeah, a lot of things will then change as well. Like could be a overall change of the system, paradigm shifts, which means not necessarily Bitcoin is changing, but just the way the world functions around us will change. So I think don't forget there's this wonderful futuristic guy called Ray Kurzweil. American the guy. He's like one of the most celebrated many years ago futurist research people in the world. And he wrote in 2006 this, I haven't read that, but I'm just about to read the new book. I think the book about AI and how it's going to change the world. So his book is called Singularity is Near. And here he describes actually how AI gonna change the world. And I think for him, the singularity is like almost like the everything's like upside down, everything just changes. To this point, I think will be in the 40s. So that's now more like outside of Bitcoin thinking that we as human beings, and that's again power law. We have the tendency, we think in, and that served us very well, by the way. We think in linear ways. We think linearly. That's Ray Kurzweil, a fascinating person.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because MicroSeed is not selling the washer. MicroSeed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.